Hello, this is Kyle Kirschbaum here, excited to be able to talk about the skill of not quitting. You know, Kirsten and I in our journey in doTERRA, I think we would both agree has contained the common component that the only reason why we're here and we continue to have success is because we feel like we understand the skill and we just did not give up. And I think if you were to stop a lot of the people that have been successful, not just in doTERRA, but in life in general, sports and relationships and all different types of aspects of life, they would also agree that this skill, the skill of not quitting, is one of the most important skills that you can possess. And so really today I want to leave you with the important aspects and the different strategies and the skills involved in being able to master this. And so there was a while ago, I heard a story that really had a huge impact on me. And there was a man who woke up one morning and he went fishing. And he stood in this river, and it was just this beautiful, beautiful river like the one that you're looking at. The water was rippling by, and the sun was sparkling off the water, and it was just the perfect temperature. And you could feel the weight of the water rushing against your boots. And he was snapping, he was a fly fisherman, so he was snapping his line over the water, and it was just perfect. It was a perfect morning. And so he casts out there and whips his line across the water, and it goes in, and he's reeling it in, and boom, he gets this huge trout. He reels in this huge trout, and he can't believe it. I mean, it's just one of those days that you can't even plan it this well. It's just everything's come together. Maybe you have felt like or had days where everything was just perfect. And so he reels in this huge, beautiful trout, and he's looking at it, and he's just so happy, and he's just thinking to himself, man, I have died and gone to heaven. This is just amazing. And he takes the trout, and he walks it over to the bank, and he gets it all lined up there and goes back into the stream. And sure enough, he throws his line back out, he's whipping it across, and the brook is rippling, and boom, he gets another beautiful, beautiful trout. But this time, the trout is even bigger than the last trout. He can't believe it. I mean, he's looking at this fish just thinking, man, I have just died and gone to heaven. This is just amazing. And he takes that trout and he takes it back to the bank and gets it all hooked up. And he just walks back out to the stream. He's got this huge smile on his face. I mean, he just can't believe it. And so, again, he throws his line out and he's fishing and the birds are chirping, and boom, he gets another amazing trout. And this time as he's reeling it in, he's thinking to himself, this is just unbelievable. I mean, even on a good day, fishing doesn't go like this. If you've ever fished, you know that you're not catching just record trout back to back to back. And so he's getting a little bit, he's just thinking something's kind of up, but, not he's pretty excited. So he takes that trout and hangs it up and walks back out. And this time he's like, I'm going to just throw my line out, not do the usual whipping and the usual tactics that I usually do. So he throws it out. And sure enough, as soon as his bait hits the water, boom, he has got another record-breaking trout. And by this time, he's starting to get a little bit suspicious, like, how is this possible? It's a beautiful day and everything, but 3 record-breaking trouts back to back to back. So he walks back and hangs it up and walks back out to the stream. And this time, he's just going to test it. So this time, he just basically throws the tip of his pole, into the water. He's not even trying really anymore. And sure enough, though, boom, he gets another trout. And as he's walking back to the bank, he thinks to himself, he goes, and he realizes, he says, he realized, I haven't died and gone to heaven. I've died and gone to hell. And when I heard that story, and I really internalized that story, it had a huge, huge impact on me. And the reason why it had such a huge impact on me is because what we think we want and what we actually need are 2 totally different things. We often think that we want everything to be roses and sunshine, and we want our world to be smooth and easy, right? And we want everything to be super successful, and we do all we can to eliminate obstacles and pain and just kind of avoid the reality. When in all reality, we really need all that opposition. We need the obstacles. We need the resistance. We need to develop the skills of persevering through odds. We need the frustration. We need the disappointment. We need the failure. In fact, we need all of these things for our actual mental well-being. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, you're saying that all these crazy things and these obstacles, they're good for me? We actually do need them for our well-being. And I want you to understand it's totally normal, and it's just a part of being human beings. We're all tempted to quit. You'll be tempted to quit anything you start, whether it's sports, relationships, businesses. Basically, every good thing that you've ever seen anybody accomplish. We're right in the middle of the Olympics, so we're seeing all these great things. And everything that you've ever seen anybody accomplish at any high level in the public eye, that person was tempted to quit. And so it's important to understand that that's a natural tendency that we have. But there's three different types of quits that I want to talk about. The first one is the temper tantrum quit, right? This is the person who says, I've had it. I've had enough. I've had it up to here. I can't take it anymore. You know, they let it build up, and then one day they just kind of say, I'm done. I'm done. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. And maybe some of us have even done the temper tantrum quit. And, you know, I know people who have, some of them have accomplished pretty, fairly large accomplishments, but they get to these points where they get fed up and they have these temper tantrums. So that's the first type of quitting, okay, the temper tantrum quit. The second one is the slow fade, okay? The slow fade, we all know, because you don't outright quit, right? You just kind of slowly fade. You say to yourself, you know what, I'm just going to skip this meeting. It's not a big deal. You know, they have these team calls on Monday night or Tuesday morning, and, you know, I've been working hard. I don't need that. Or I've already read that book. I already know what it has to say. Or I've already listened to that audio, you know, and I'm feeling kind of sick. I got the sniffles, and my cat, he's got a bunion, and I want to drink some chicken noodle soup and just take a break. You know, it's the slow fade, right? We all tell ourselves whatever it might be. So there's the slow fade. And then there's the just for now quit, okay? And this is the put it on hold, you know. Well, Christmas is coming up, and it's, you know, we're going to be really, really busy, so I'm just going to put it on hold. But after Christmas, Mildred and I, we're going to get this thing kicking. We're going to tear it up after Christmas, or we're going to tear it up after spring break. They're always tearing it up or getting started or really going to take off after whatever it might be. And so there's the just for now, the after type of quitting. So it's important to kind of recognize, because all of us play with these different types of quits, or we have. You know, we don't need to be embarrassed. We've dealt with these type of quits. But I want to talk about 10 different reasons why people quit. Okay? The first reason why people quit is you get to the point where you don't believe that you can do it anymore. And it's really interesting, you know, when we don't believe that we can do something anymore, anytime we get to that point, we're very, very close to quitting. And this is why we always talk about the importance of our belief, right? And one of the fastest ways to grow your belief in doTERRA is through conventions and elite retreats and leaderships and West and East Coast conventions and incentive trips and getting to know the owners and getting to know your leaders and really creating that belief. So that's the first one. You get to the point where you don't believe that you can do it anymore. The second one, my people quit. My best people, my one best girl, my one best guy, they quit. And so people quit because of that. But if you think about it, this one makes no sense to me, because when you signed up with doTERRA, you signed up because you wanted to accomplish certain goals and dreams. And none of the people that are now currently in your organization were ever there the day that you sat down and you signed that IPC form and you said, I'm going to do this, or even the moment where you said, you know what, I'm going to do this as a business and I'm going to go pursue my dreams and goals. So why in the world would you undo a decision that you made because of people that were not even involved in the decision from the very beginning? I don't know about you, but it just doesn't make any sense. And so it's important to understand that we do this because of the goals and dreams that we want to accomplish. And that, you know, if people do quit, or my best people quit, you know, again, they had nothing to do with that decision to begin with. So the next one, I'm all out of names. I don't know anyone. I mean, could you imagine if any normal business, let's say, for example, a used car lot like the one that you see there, could you imagine if the owner said, man, I'm all out of names. I don't know. I've talked to all my family and friends. Guess we're going to have to close down the car lot. And that's because that's not how a real business works. You know, or we say, you know, well, I don't know anyone. If you don't recognize the guy there on the right, you know, that's Bill Gates. Could you imagine when he started Microsoft if he would have said, man, this is just not going to succeed. I mean, I only can talk to my family and friends, and I only have about 7 people that are my friends because I've been sitting in this room for the last 2 years programming and can't really communicate with people. The fact of the matter is, again, there are 6 billion people on the earth, and if you get rid of all the people that don't want to build, or you get rid of all the people that, are not in a position or whatever it might be, as long as you're breathing and you're eating and you're talking and you're circulating in your little area, you're going to meet new people. And so, again, this is just one of those reasons, though, why people quit. I love this one. I gave it my best shot. I gave it my best shot. Well, it's so funny if you think about this in terms of a soldier, right? Could you imagine if a soldier went out to war and they only brought 1 bullet with them? And they get out to battle, and they got their 1 bullet, and they shoot it, and the guy turns to his captain and says, I gave it my best shot. I shot my bullet. I guess I got to go back. I guess that's it. I guess I'm going to give up and quit. And the fact of the matter is, when has giving it your best shot ever been enough? It never is. And we know, I mean, from a soldier that is really prepared, you don't go to battle. You don't go to battle to pursue your dreams with just 1 bullet. It's just never going to happen if that's the case. You go prepared. You have a lot of bullets. So if you need to take another shot, for Pete's sakes, take another shot, right? But we hear people say, I gave it my best shot. I guess that's going to be it. Again, giving it your best shot is never going to be enough. Prepare yourself, especially when you're pursuing something that is as important as your goals and dreams are. So another one that I think is very important is, I'm not as far as I thought I'd be. I thought I would be way, way further along. And I just think it's so funny to me that, that is one of 2 things. That's obviously an unrealistic expectation of what it would take, right? Sometimes we come into this business and we think, oh, I'm going to get started, and next week I'm going to hit, quadruple presidential diamond or whatever rank that we have in our mind, or whatever benchmark we feel like we need to accomplish. And if you're saying I'm not as far as I thought to be, you're just simply saying I had an unrealistic expectation of what I would take. Or you're saying that I'm overconfident in my, of what it's going to take and what I'm actually capable of doing. So it has nothing to do with doTERRA. It has nothing to do with that journey. It has to do with your expectations. And so that you have to get those expectations in line with exactly what it's going to take. The next one I love. I've invested so much. And again, sometimes when we start doTERRA, I know for myself, we were in a position where we really couldn't afford to really put a whole lot in. We purchased a family physician kit, and we had to do some creative things to have our monthly orders and everything. But when you look at the big scope, and when we hear people say, I've invested so much, we haven't really invested squat. Really, when it really comes down to it, when you look at a traditional business and what the opportunity that we have in doTERRA, what we can do for our families, a traditional business, you're going to spend $10,000 to $30,000 in startup costs and $10,000 to $50,000 a month. And with doTERRA, you can spend as little as $1,500, or if you purchase a diamond kit, $2,000 and $150 a month to max out the compensation plan. And, you just think to yourself how grateful and what an opportunity we have to participate in this business. I mean, you could purchase every product that doTERRA comes out with for the next 10 years, go to every single convention, go to leadership, go to West Coast, East Coast, you could go to all those things, and probably for the next 10 years, and probably still not spend as much as it would take to purchase a normal phone system in a normal corporation, in a normal business. And so although our perspective can be that we've invested a lot coming from where we are, and that's totally understandable, in the grand scheme of things and what we're creating, really it's such an amazing opportunity. And I think most people would say that they wish that they would have maybe been a little bit more aggressive, or they would have looked and understood this better. But again, everybody's timeline is a little bit different. The next one, it's harder than I thought. This simply happens because people don't understand, we don't understand the laws of success, right? Everything is hard. Becoming a professional basketball player, I think it's like 1 out of every 100,000 kids that becomes a professional basketball player. Marriage is hard. You know, I mean, business is hard. Everything is hard. Working out is hard. There's nothing that is not hard. In fact, the more successful you become, oftentimes, the more muscles that you have to develop, you know, not in a literal sense, but the more business muscles or the more leadership muscles you have to develop so that you can handle as you move closer to your goals. And so, yeah, it's harder than I thought, and that's just simply being able to understand the laws of success. You can't skip and you can't trick success. There's no quantum leaps or loopholes or anything like that. It's a matter of really understanding the laws of success and working in this business. The next one, somebody made fun of me, right? Number 8. You know, here's the thing. Anytime you're pursuing your greatness, you're going to have people that are going to make fun of you. And you have to find a way to be able to laugh at those situations and understand that when you're pursuing your greatness, you know, like this quote says, dare to follow your dreams and don't let someone else's opinion become their reality. Usually people will say things because they don't believe that they can do it themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of those people, in fact, I was one of those people for my wife at certain points in our business. And I said the things that I said simply because I didn't believe I could do them myself. But I think it's so important to remember, do not let someone's opinion become your reality. So number 8, someone made fun of me. Now number 9 is different than number 8. Number 9 is someone hurt my feelings or I've been wrong. You know, it's so funny in this business, remember that, but as we develop relationships, right, none of us are perfect communicators. None of us are perfect leaders. And sometimes we do things on accident that hurt people's feelings, right? We didn't compliment them correctly, or we didn't save them a seat, right, in their ranked section or whatever it might be, or we didn't send them a thank you note. And it's funny, I mean, you'll have people that are extremely successful, you know, people at the very, you know, top ranks that are doing extremely well, and people all the way from the very beginning, you know, that have all this momentum and are getting started, and will let these little things, these little insignificant things where somebody didn't give us a hug like we wanted, or didn't give us a chance to speak or something. We let these things get us off the path to success. And so I love this. How far you go in life is almost directly tied to the small things that will offend you. Number 10, I came across something negative and now I have doubts. I like to compare this one to as if I was in a bathroom stall and I saw something written on the side of the stall that said something negative about my wife, right? And I go home and I say, Kirsten, I cannot believe this. I saw what was written in the stall. I cannot believe that they would say that about you. This whole marriage thing, I just don't think I can do it. Not with knowing what I know about you that I read about in the stall in the bathroom. It's just, I can't do this marriage thing anymore. You know, it's so funny how we let these opinions that we read, you know, we don't even know if they're true or not. And with the day and age we live in with the internet, people can post anything they want about anything. And sometimes we automatically buy into this, well, if somebody said it, then it must be true. And this really goes back to number 1, because you have to have that belief and you have to understand and get to know doTERRA, get to know the owners. To me, understanding and knowing the owners on a personal level changed everything for me. And much of my skepticism and much of my belief in doTERRA really, really took off and skyrocketed from that point. So remember that. You know, I came across something negative and now I have doubts. So not quitting is a skill. It's important to understand, and these are a few kind of just very deep thoughts and quotes that I want everybody to kind of think of. Adversity is the canvas on which you paint your dreams. Adversity is the canvas on which you paint your dreams. Without adversity, we cannot achieve our dreams. There is no skipping it, cheating it. We have to have it. And obstacles are the seasoning that make victories taste sweet. I love those quotes, and they really, really make the point of how we should look at adversity and how we should look at our obstacles. Now, you know, you have to imagine, what if there was no opposition, right? What if we just went to a doTERRA convention and everybody that got up said, you know what, I got a sample, I signed up, and I walked the red carpet. It was amazing. I never had any problems. I never had any classes where nobody showed up. It was just easy. I tried some, I signed up, and now I'm super successful. I quit my job, and all I do is travel or whatever it might be. none of us would relate to that. Nobody would learn anything from that. We wouldn't see the struggle. We wouldn't relate to each other. It's important that we understand that our goals, getting to our goal is not the important thing. It's who we become. It's who that adversity and what those obstacles do to us as a person. And so on the road to mastery, not quitting comes down to personal management. And we're going to talk about this, but how well do you handle yourself on the road to mastery? And there's three parts to this road to mastery. And I thought this is really important to understand because many of us right now are in the immersion stage. And we're going to talk about each of these, but you know, anytime you do something new, we can all relate to the ignorant stage, right? Especially when you fall in love and you know, everything's amazing and, you know, time stops and, you know, and this happens with a lot of things, right? Not just falling in love with someone. When you first approach something new, you don't know what you don't know, right? You only see the good, and it might even seem easy, you know, and if you were to compare it to like karate or something, you might say, you know, all of us have the innate ability to throw a punch, right? If somebody attacks us, we throw a punch, right? It's just we never even learned how to do that. You know, my little boys never even learned. I didn't teach them how to throw punches. They picked up the Tonka trucks and they smacked each other, right? And so we all have this innate reflex to throw a punch. The interesting thing, though, when we're in the ignorant stage, and we have this with our business too, right? A lot of us sometimes we say, you know what? I'm going to sign up, and just because I pick up the phone, I'm going to have like 100 people in this thing, and it's going to be so awesome. I'm going to be changing people's lives. I'm going to have teams in other countries and all these different things. And then we run into the immersion stage, right? And the immersion stage is really, really important to understand because this is where most people fall out. But this is where you actually become a master and where you really learn the most. And comparing this to the punch, you know, in the beginning, a punch is a punch, right? Somebody attacks us, we throw this punch. But for any of you who have ever done karate or martial arts, you know that there's a specific way to punch. You spread your feet. Your feet have to be in a certain position. Your knuckles have to be in a certain position so you're contacting the right way. If they're not, then you can break your fingers. You know, you're twisting your torso. You need to punch 3 inches through the target that you're punching through. And they have you do that over and over and over and over again. And when you get it with your right hand, they have you do it with your left hand. And you're like, wow, this is weird. And maybe you punch yourself or whatever it might be. And you realize, wow, there's a lot that goes into punching. A punch isn't a punch anymore, right? You've gone into this immersion stage. And the same thing happens with doTERRA, right? In the beginning, maybe you have a class, you have an amazing class, and you're just thinking to yourself, wow, this is just, I can't do anything wrong. This is great. Everybody that I talk to, they love the oils, and they're changing people's lives. And then you reach this immersion stage, and it's how you handle yourself when the reality of immersion kicks in. That is what determines what level of success that you achieve. And then you have the next stage, which is the intelligence stage, where all of a sudden, after months and months, or maybe years and years of practicing that punch, somebody throws a punch at you, and boom, you know, with perfect form, you punch back. And you don't even know where that came from. But it's because you stuck through that immersion stage, and you popped out on the other side, and a punch returned to being a punch. A punch was just like it was before. And we see this with everything, right? We see this with sports. We see this in relationships as well. And so most people will not push themselves into that stage of immersion. They won't keep pushing themselves. They won't keep themselves in it long enough to actually gain the skills and master what it is that they need to master. And so it's important to understand that because in immersion, you have to learn to love. This has got to be where if you want to make it to that intelligence stage, if you want to succeed at any high level, you have to fall in love with this phase. Few people will go through what you will go through. That's why almost everyone is mediocre by choice. God didn't make them that way. They choose it with their daily habits. There is a time and a toughness element involved in this stage of immersion. Most people quit in this immersion stage, and this is the reason why those of you who are watching this, that's the reason why you'll succeed, because you'll now know ahead of time what lies ahead, and you'll be able to push through it. Now, it's important to understand, you know, like we said in the beginning, we have this natural innate weakness to want to quit things, and you know, quitting things does three things to us. The first thing is it pulls us out of the immersion phase, right? Anytime you quit in that immersion phase and you pull yourself out, you surrender any of the valuable progress that you've made, and you start over. You know, if you go somewhere else, you start over again in the ignorance stage, okay? And so it's important to understand that when you're thinking about, oh man, what should I do? Should I do something different? When you leave that emergent stage, you surrender all of the skills, the valuable progress that you've made. The second thing that quitting does to us, quitting is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And the best way to explain this is, if you had a beautiful piece of property in Hawaii or wherever it might be, oceanfront piece of property with beautiful green grass, and all of a sudden you had a few weeds that started popping up on that grass, and you threw your hands up in the air and you said, oh my goodness, I can't believe there's weeds. Let's move, right? Let's get out of here. And, you know, and if you can think about it like that, again, you're surrendering valuable real estate you invested into because some silly weeds popped up. The third thing is that quitting starts a pattern that is really hard to stop. And what I mean by this, and I'll just kind of give you a really quick story, there was once this dad, and I can relate to this dad because I've done this many times. There was a dad who was changing one of his little boy's diapers, and while he was changing his little boy's diaper, he got a little bit of the stinky stuff on his hands, got a little poop on his hands. And he didn't see it, and, you know, after he got done changing his son and his son took off, he accidentally, he started picking his nose. And I know you're saying that's gross, but he started picking his nose and didn't know that now he had poop in his nose. And so he's wandering through the house, and later on that evening, you know, he's doing the dishes, and he turns to his wife, and he's like, man, it stinks in here. You know, it just smells terrible. And he goes out to the garage to work in the garage, and he's thinking to himself, man, it's just everywhere I go, it stinks. And I love this story because it's important to understand that when we quit things, we start this habit that follows us, and it becomes who we are. I love the quote, everywhere I go, there I am, my stinky self, if we've gotten to this habit of quitting. And the other thing is, the time lost by leaving the immersion process is never regained. You don't get it back, right? And some of us have made this mistake. And it's just so important to understand that the quitting starts this pattern that's hard to stop, and it continues with us. Oftentimes I hear people say, well, it was this or it was that, and that's totally not true. It was them. The stink was with them. And until they fix that and until they learn why that is stopping them, the stink just keeps on following them. And so anyway, a very great way to remember that principle. So the number of times you quit things moves you at a quicker pace towards the number of times you quit things moves you at a quicker pace towards it being too late. You know, it's important to cultivate and keep alive your love for the immersion process. So I want to give you 10 practical steps that you can take away from this for not quitting. The first thing is, don't ever teach your last class. One of the things that I love to do is I like to actually have a printed physical version of the calendar for the month or the next couple months up on our whiteboard. And I like to write on that whiteboard when the classes are, what things we have going on, one-on-ones, business trainings. Because in the business that we're in, if you only have one class set up ahead of you, you know, in the next week, and that class quits or that class cancels, technically you're out of business, right? And so it's important that you never let your calendar get empty. Always have classes booked, okay? The second thing is, when your tank is low, take action. When you're feeling down, when your tank is low, take action. Listen to an audio. Talk to your upline. Go do a class. Go sample to somebody. Go do some service or whatever it might be. Just take positive action. The third thing is, listen to audios. You know, we talk a lot about this. It's a dead giveaway when somebody is not doing very well or they've kind of lost momentum, because you know that they have not been receiving informational reinforcement. And listening to audios, daily mentor calls, team calls, personal development audios, this is our informational reinforcement. If you can think about yourself on the front of that ship, and the mass is at the front of that ship, and you're just in this crazy, crazy storm, the audios that we listen to, those are the lashes that tie us to that mass in the storm. You know, your ship has come, but you have to stay on. And those lashes are what allows us to stay on that ship. So that informational reinforcement is critical. The fourth thing is refresh your dream. You know, you have to have a dream that will truly pull you through everything, that'll pull you through wanting to quit, that'll pull you through people quitting, that'll pull you through getting offended, that'll pull you through all the little silly things that we've talked about. And I know this is true for my wife and I. We constantly talk about our dreams and our goals, and we add things to them and we refine them. But there's 3 levels of motivation when it comes to our dreams and goals. And you know, the first level, the material level, this is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not going to be the thing that will pull you through the really difficult times. The second thing is respect and recognition, which has been obviously, you know, it's been something that for us and for a lot of people is very important. But again, it's not going to pull you through. You're refreshing your dream. It has to be rooted in a cause, in a purpose, and in your legacy. And if it's not, you're going to come up against some challenges that really, really push you around and will test whether or not that you have that. So number 5, envision future. You only get what you picture. You only arrive at the place you run in your mind's eye. If you run that picture long enough and take action, your future becomes your reality. And I think this is very powerful and something that we don't give enough credit to. Dreaming and understanding what our future holds and talking about it as couples and even as teams, but envisioning our future. The 6th thing, don't fall for the false illusion of unknown alternatives. And this is so common, right? Because especially when we get into the immersion stage, and we get into the immersion stage and we hear somebody else say something like, hey, I got something that's easier, you can make more money, you can progress faster, you know, they got all these other extra things or whatever. And you always have to remind yourself, you can never skip the struggle. You can't skip the immersion stage. And if you were to leave, you know, that immersion stage for this false illusion, guess what? Eventually you're going to have to go through the ignorance stage, and you're going to have to start right back over in the immersion stage. So don't fall for the false illusions. The 7th thing, get around your leaders. You know, we talked about those lashes tying you to the mast. Well, who's going to tie those lashes for you? Okay, you're not going to be able to tie yourself to the mast. You know, you're going to need your leaders to help you and to tie you to that mast and to support you and to give you that confidence and to believe in you. So get around your leaders. The next one is only focus on what you can control and disregard all the rest. This is such an important skill to remember, and there's a couple phrases that in my mind I run over and over and over again. And that is the phrase, it doesn't matter. When I hear people say that they didn't save me a seat, I say, you know what, it doesn't matter. Or if I hear somebody say a friend told me no or rejected me or whatever, I say, you know what, it doesn't matter. If I didn't get recognized correctly, I say, you know what, it doesn't matter. If somebody said something mean to me, again, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. You know, you can only focus on the things, that you can control and disregard all the rest. So take a look at the things that are affecting you, and if you can't control them, move on, push forward. Don't let those things hold you up. Don't let them take up space in your mind where you're contentious or whatever it might be. If there's an apology needed, you know, fine, get the apology out, but move beyond it and get rid of those things that don't matter and focus on those things that you can control. The number 9, know how to repair yourself. You know, we work in a business where we have so much passion for what we do that oftentimes we kind of reach this little burnout stage a little bit, and it's totally normal. And it's important that we understand how to really rejuvenate ourselves and repair ourselves. So for some of you, that might be getting around a lot of people, getting around friends. For a lot of you, that might be getting away from being around a lot of people and taking a walk or reading a book, or I know for myself, listening to, you know, an audio or a motivational tape, but know exactly what you need to do to repair yourself and make sure that you do that. And the final one is when you're in a low and you need repair, postpone all decisions. You know, there's nothing that would be more frustrating than making a bad decision when you're in what I call survival mode. You know, get yourself back to a place where you can think clearly, and when you're in that low and you need repair, postpone all decisions. You don't want to make a decision that you regret later. And that goes for not just, you know, doTERRA and the businesses that we're building, but relationships and life in general. So Not quitting as a skill has been something that has been had a huge impact on us and our family. And oftentimes, we only see pictures of people succeeding, right? And I think that phrase, you get recognized in public for what you practice in private, is very pertinent. And it's important as we leave this webinar that you remember to fall in love with the immersion stage. Fall in love with that stage and fall in love with understanding the process that we're all going through, and that we're all here to support each other and help each other pop out on that other side, and enjoy that success as a group. So I appreciate you listening to this webinar, and I hope you've been able to grasp a little bit of the importance of not quitting and really making that a skill that you master. Everyone have a great day, and I hope you've enjoyed this webinar.